Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Wherever you are in the world today, right now you're on the new way. I'm Dr. Lenny Thyme, and today I'm going to talk about time, the calendar in specific, and how it works to entrain us in a pattern that doesn't fit any logical series of equations. The idea is to keep everybody off balance as much as possible. And I'm going to demonstrate a calendar that is an 8 by 8, 64-day calendar that allows you conceptually to feel each day as it passes. The days differ. It's based on a system called Treei, invented by Armando Busick. And Armando's no longer with us, but I'm sure he's laughing his ass off in the worlds where he inhabits when he sees this video. Anyway, today is it's a Tuesday by reckoning in normal time, but for me, it's sound minding. And in the 64-day calendar, there's 8 concepts, and they're crossed with each other in permutations of 2. So 8 permutation by 2 gives you 64 days on your grid, and they're broken down into 8 strongs. Since a week is 7 days, a strong, the opposite of week, must be 8 days. And 8 days allows you to get into patterns of mind. The reason to get into patterns is because it simplifies your logic stream. Now, that's all gobbledygook to anybody who's out there. What it really does is it changes the appearance of what you look at, so that if you know the theme of the day, you can sort of work out exactly how you try and do things. I use each 64-day calendar to set a goal, and I try to accomplish my goal during that 64-day period. Let's think about what we're doing, because today is sound minding, and I'm talking and thinking at the same time, and sometimes that can go awry. But this is time on time. I'm going to talk about calendars, clocks, and means of entrainment. The regular calendar makes no sense. Daze, which means 10, is the 12th month. The pattern of 7 days, 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. The pattern is repetitious. It's out of kilter. It builds up to a system where most of the work gets done at 48 hours in the middle of the week, and the time spent prepping to do the work and winding down from the stress of having done the work blows people's minds. It's not regular. If you can get on a pattern of, you start with your mass. Mass is the first concept on the calendar. Mass to me is the physical entity that is me, the computer I'm talking at, the table. But mass to you can be anything. Think of it as the materium. And when you're dealing with mass, you're getting it together on the ground floor, just basically starting off on things. So massing would be the first day of the 64-day grid calendar. The second concept is form. You got to do something with your mass. So you take it and you form it into a shape. And so how you shape things is however you feel they are right. If you walk around in nature, nature has a way of shaping things based on the Fibonacci sequence, which is basically starting from 0, adding the next number 1 to generate the following number 1. Then you take the previous number 0, add it to 1, and you generate the next number, which is 1. So 0, 1, 1. The next number generated is the sum of the two ones, which is 2. So you have 0, 1, 1, 2. And following that, you take the 2, add it back to the 1, and you get 3. So 0, 1, 1, 2, 3. Now you add 2 and 3, the previous two numbers, and you get 5. So 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, which if you're counting in normal terms, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're at 5 either way. So that's a brief beginning for the Fibonacci sequence and the golden mean ratio, but that's another topic. Once you've taken your mass and you form it into something, then it starts to flow. Mass, form, flow. So the flow is just when things, you got your mass, your idea, your form of how you're going to carry it out, and now it starts to flow as you implement it. After flow, it goes into power. And power is really a concept. Mass, form, flow, power. You got it together and it's rolling and you're going to get things done. The fifth word concept is love. And to me, power is mitigated by love, which means if you're applying power without love, or if you're applying love without power, you've disembodied each of them because they work together in tandem to produce the results that you want based on your limbic system, your body, your chakras. The concept of who you are and what you are as manifest through a calendar that allows you to do things at human scale. Mass, form, flow, power, love, sound. Sound is an interesting one. To me, it means you start talking about what you did and what you learned and getting feedback and trying to apply the lessons of the existence and using all the different concepts. You got it together. You've used power and love to really go. Now you want to tell yourself first and the rest of the world what it is you have that you're offering to make a difference. The next concept is mind. Mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind. It's after you've made your videos and you've put things together and you've thought about what it is that you want to accomplish. Now you have it together and you can figure out what it is you want to do for the next 64-day cycle that's coming up. Because after mind comes void, and void is the absence of stuff. It's the house clearing time for your mind so that when you're ready to start massing things in the next setup, you have taken a break and repurposed yourself. And usually I think a grid out, a grid of 64 made up of 8 strongs, with each strong mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind, void, in sequence, rolling and continuing following the sequence. So if today is sound minding, which set to my calendar, it's my sound minding, but the group calendar hasn't been started yet, at least not in the form that we can officially say go for it. It's one of those things where I give myself the authority to do what I need to do, but I know when I don't have the authority, it's not in my mindset to go out and use that authority. And the authority I have is only in my world. It's not necessarily in your world unless you are in my world, but it's self-discipline. It's not discipline on others. And sometimes you play roles that aren't within self to learn more about self. And role playing, live action role play where you are the protagonist of your own being, is a learning experience that if you can do it right, any way you can do it, so that you entertain yourself while you're learning, now you've got the basis for real understanding, but you don't want to be standing under anything. You want to comprehend. Every word has a meaning. And as the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland once said, words mean exactly what I think they mean. And to your listener, they will. And so if you take these simple words, mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind, void, what you get is you get a rolling pattern that gives you a theme of the day, but also a theme of the strong. So the first strong is mass, and mass goes through mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind, and void. And then form is the next strong. And it goes through form massing, form forming, form flowing, form powering, form loving, form sounding, form minding, and form voiding. And when form voids, it's just for one day of the strong where you can clear your mind and start rotating in, but you get that mind clearing day every day. And in reality, when you're in power, love, and sound, you have a lot more energy flowing than when you're in mind, void, and mass. And it becomes a cycle just like the seasons, where in your cycle you slow down in the winter, you speed up in the summer. But what I like to do is I like to alternate my grids of 64 so that I have a personal grid of down things that I want to do, then a grid of world and how I want to interact with it. And lately I've been thinking about differing the interaction that I have with world, because I've been a hermit for long enough that I've learned to do everything I need to do for myself by myself. That's not how world works, it's how self works. And in application of self to other ways of doing things, I tend to look at multiple different ways from perspectives that I can fit into from the role that I'm playing. And so when I role play a role, it's an extravaganza that I try and take on a 64-day journey from mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind, and void, each one in sequence, each one through an 8-day strong. And by the time I'm at voiding, it's a day of reflection where I can look at where I've gotten, whether I've achieved the goal I set for the grid of 64 that goes from massing to voiding. And later on, I'll talk about how you can calculate which day you are on based on your day of birth. But right now, I'm struggling with calendars and ways of doing things and keeping track of time, because time is what we have that is our personal value to choose to apply. And everybody's time is not the same. A second doesn't take a second for anybody but you in your measuring of a second. And if somebody like Cliff High is correct and we blink out 22 quadrillion times every second and then get reformed in the next 22 quadrillionths of a second, well, there's an awful lot of us running around on planet Earth on scales that only we can imagine, but they're time segregated. And if you look at how Fibonacci works and do the math to work your way out past 610 and go up into some higher numbers and look at how fast the digits increase. Most people never took a simple approach to math. And math is, they try to make it a universal language, but it's a bastardization of a language that we no longer have because they've broken things down into smaller and smaller subunits. And each of the subunits is an independent quanta. It's unique on its own scale, but scale is something we don't quite understand either. I notice I'm approaching the 20-minute mark, and I don't want to go too far past because my attention span is now slipping. But I also follow and track the Mayan calendar as taught by Jose Arguelles, who doesn't necessarily have the correct Mayan calendar, but has many of the concepts down and is a commercial endeavor now that he's passed. But the Red Queen, hats off to you. And today is a red spectral night day. And there you have a calendar that's a 13 by 20, giving you 260 days. And that's another different pattern. The Mayan calendars, plural, are one of those things that look at time quite a bit differently. And 2012, December 21st, 2012, was supposed to be this fabulous date of cognition. But, it's on a 26,000 year cycle. And when you think about the error bars, 26 years in either direction from that date is only 1/100th of a percent error, and that would be amazingly accurate. So the times that we're in are strange times indeed, but a lot of us are in multiple timelines on different scales, and we'll talk more about that concept. Today, my focus was on mass, form, flow, power, love, sound, mind, and void, and the understanding that these concepts, when applied to you and your situation by your definition of the concept, will give you something to think about until I have a chance of making the next Treei video. Thank you, Armando. Thank you, listeners. And it's been a pleasure being with you. I'm Dr. Lenny Thyme, and This is how I look at the calendar.